In today's video, I'm bringing you my top 10, technically top 12, wide receivers for the 2024 NFL draft class. This is, I can confidently say, the best class I have scouted in a very, very long time. I've spent the last couple months looking at all 22 films. Shout out to Caddy's Cut-Ups over on Patreon. And we are going to break down our top 12 from 12 all the way to 1. Now, keep in mind, anytime I talk about a wide receiver and I talk about where they rank amongst the rest of the nation in college football, that will be associated with a 50 target minimum to qualify in those rankings. All right, honorable mention 1 or wide receiver 12 here. Xavier Legette, or XL. We call him XL because the guy is massive. He is 6'3", 230 pounds. He is out of South Carolina, played in the SEC, 4-star recruit, and he's actually from South Carolina, which is awesome. Let's talk about the things that we like about him. First off, he had the 11th best PFF receiving grade, 87.0. He had a 75.6 catch percentage, which was 17th best in the nation, and he only had a 3% drop rate, and that lines up with his film. He has very, very reliable hands. He's a Herculean type of athlete. There is a lot of size, speed, athletic wide receivers in this class. That is a huge trend. I know last year there was a lot of smaller guys, a little undersized, but there are some absolute monsters in this class, and Xavier is no exception. But at that size, he just moves differently to, your typical 6'3", 230 wide receiver. Do not be surprised if Xavier runs a 4.36, a 4.37 at that size at the combine. He's got ridiculous speed, crazy hops, wins those one-on-one balls. He has that don't get beat speed, if I can be a little bit more specific. And that gives him a real advantage over the defender, because while he might not be a nuanced route runner yet, the defenders know that they cannot press up on him often because that he could easily beat them over the top. That gives him an ability to kind of operate underneath a route as well. But some concerns for me, he is a fifth-year senior. He only broke out just this year at the age of 22. In his first 4 years, he had 423 receiving yards combined, so averaging about 100 receiving yards a year. This year, he breaks off, goes crazy, 1,200 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns. So it is a little concerning that he broke out so late when he's playing these defensive backs who are younger than him. He's not a technically sound route runner. He has all the twitchiness, the athleticism to be a very good route runner, but he's just not there yet. It's a pretty simple route tree. And something that I found the most concerning was that he struggled a little bit versus press, and you'll only be able to see that if you're watching all 22. But at his size, 6'3", 230 almost, I would not expect someone like that to struggle in press coverage. And look, I'm not saying he can't beat a defender off of press, but he's just not technically sound enough with his release package to really get an advantage off the line of scrimmage. That's something that I think he could definitely improve. But if you're looking at a pro comp, he has the ridiculous athleticism that the A.J. Browns, the DK Metcalfs of the world have. My favorite comp for him is actually Cordero Patterson, and that's a very valuable player. Imagine in today's game, if Cordero Patterson was coming in as a rookie, that would be a super fun player to add to your team. So we'll see what happens with his draft capital. I think he's probably a second-round pick in what is a very, very deep class. All right, my second honorable mention before we get into the top 10. Some people may have him in their top 10. That is Adonai Mitchell out of Texas. He is 6'4", 196 pounds. He was originally a 3-star recruit, but he was a 5-star transfer when he came to Texas, actually from Antioch, Tennessee. But the thing I like about Adonai is he has played really well versus some of the best competition that you can face in college football. He beat Kool-Aid McKinstry when they played Alabama in a lot of different ways. Beat him in some contested catch scenarios, deceived him on some routes. He was very, very impressive versus Bama against Kool-Aid McKinstry, who is currently projected to be a top 20 pick in the NFL draft. He's got very soft, sure hands. You can say that a wide receiver has solid, reliable hands, but there's a difference when you say that their hands are soft. It's like you drop it somewhere in their area code. They've got that ability to just let it fall right into the breadbasket. I'll take care of the ball. Don't worry, I got you. He's got those soft, silky hands. And he's got an impressive drop rate at 2.3%, which is 16th best in the nation. Now, the reason he's not higher for me, and it's not something that he can't improve on necessarily, but in today's game where we're talking about putting athletes in space and letting them dominate, he's just not a very big yak threat. In fact, he has a 3.0 yards after catch per reception, which is 216th out of 233 wide receivers who had at least 50 targets this year. He's just not a big yak guy. I don't see that translating to the NFL. He's just a clear strengths and weakness player. He's very good at what he's good at, and there are some clear limitations to his game. So that's the reason that he's not inside my top 10, but I see a lot of Martavis Bryant in his game. Maybe Martavis was a little bit better of a route runner, to be fair. All right, getting into the top 10, I'll go from 10 to 1. And my wide receiver 10, I'll just say this is not consensus. If you're looking for some consensus rankings, go find a big board instead. This is just my opinion. We're going to agree. We're going to disagree on some things, and that's okay. Like, it's okay for us all to have differences of opinion. My wide receiver 10, and I'm preparing you for this, is Keon Coleman out of Florida State. I know he's projected to be a top 15 pick in the NFL draft. I know everyone loves this guy. All the mock draft and NFL draft analysts are kind of oozing over him. Let's talk about what he is good at, because to be fair, Keon, his best traits, and he does it very well, is his jump ball ability. We call him jump ball Keon. Anytime you get a one-on-one opportunity with Keon Coleman, you should throw it his way, because he's got that basketball background. He can jump with anyone. He's got really, really strong hands. Before the ACC championship game, he had 0 drops on the year. He hadn't dropped a single pass. He was one of 10 wide receivers to do that all year. Now, he broke out at the age of 19, had about 27% of his team's receiving offense in Michigan State, where he played alongside Jayden Reed. He put up more production than Jayden Reed. So undeniably, he might be the best contested catch receiver in this class. I will 100% agree. My concern is how he translates to the NFL. Keep in mind, every year there are guys who go in the first round and it just doesn't end up being worth a first round pick. I am really big, and you'll see this throughout this video, on your ability to run routes well and to separate consistently. And there is not a wide receiver that I watched more film of so far this year than Keon Coleman. And that's specifically because I was consistently trying to find where I could see his route running and his separation translating to the next level. There is more space in the NFL game. You have to think about where the hash marks are. There's more space for your wide receiver to operate. In tighter windows, when you're not able to create separation, you can be the best contested catcher in the world, but you're going up against better athletes at the NFL. And I hate to be the bad guy, but it's just my personal opinion. People will disagree, but I don't think he's a good route runner. His routes are rounded off. He doesn't have suddenness or twitchiness that these top receivers in the class have. His release off the line of scrimmage, it kind of drags out, in my personal opinion. He doesn't manipulate defenders or have a complex route tree. It just seems like an extremely lackadaisical part of his game, and I have major concerns at how he will translate at the next level, where athleticism alone will not be the reason you win. He's also not an incredible run blocking wide receiver, and I just think that that is something that people who play Dynasty or fantasy football don't think about enough, but that is something that if a coach can't trust you to run block, they're not going to have you out there as much. And I think he can improve. He has the big body to be a good blocker, but it doesn't seem like it's something that he's putting 100% of his effort to either. But when I look at my pro comps, there's a couple comps here that really stand out. Devontae Parker, thinking about Miami, Devontae Parker. In Miami, he was productive. Yes, he dealt with some injuries, but he was productive. But he wasn't a very good route runner. In fact, his time in Miami, he ranked 99th in the NFL in route separation. He was still able to put up numbers, but it was always a limitation of his. But Devontae Parker was a middle of the first round pick, had good collegiate production, was a good ball winner. I just don't think that he ended up being the player that people wanted him to be. I also see a little Kenny Golladay, right? So if Keon goes to the right quarterback, Kenny Golladay was a super successful player in Detroit, but he had a gunslinger to throw him the ball. Great ball placement, so it's going to take the right quarterback, I believe, the right system for him to be super successful. I'm not saying I don't like Keon. I'm saying this is an extremely stacked class, and there are so many good wide receivers. I just don't prefer him over the other names. All right, at number 9, let's talk about Xavier Worthy out of Texas. He is 6'1", 172 pounds, 20 years old, and he's a 4-star recruit out of Fresno, California. He is a put the man in space and let him operate type of player, type of athlete, an explosive playmaker. I would anticipate offensive coordinators already kind of drooling over how to utilize a guy like Xavier Worthy on a week in, week out basis. He's a versatile player. Texas took advantage of that every week, using him outside, in the slot, in the screen game, in arounds, as a running back in the backfield, kick returns. Their goal essentially, was to get him in space to let him operate. He broke out at the young age of 18. We'd love to see that. Has great twitch, great suddenness, quick release package off the line of scrimmage, shows really good footwork, specifically at the line of scrimmage. That is something special. The best wide receivers in the game have that. As soon as the ball snapped, I am instantly using my footwork off the line of scrimmage to gain separation in the snap of an eye. The way I move, the way I manipulate my body is either gaining separation or it's not fooling the defender at all. He has a great release package. My concern with him specifically is the inconsistent hands. I'm not saying he has bad hands. I'm just saying it's inconsistent. He will make the highlight catch, the ridiculous circus catch, and then he'll drop the easy ones. It's a little bit confusing when you watch the film. He has a 7.4% drop rate, which is 123rd in the nation. And his contested catch percentage, it's a little bit concerning. He is not going to be a ball winner at the next level, in my personal opinion. Now, he can succeed with a lot of those other attributes, but he was 3 of 11 for contested catches this year. That's a 28% rate, which is 198th in college football. So I just don't think he's going to be a ball winner. And I keep seeing people compare him to Devonta Smith. I get it. It's a hard comp for Xavier Worthy. My issue with the Devonta Smith comp is that Devonta is a great ball winner. I mean, you can throw the ball up to him. He makes some of those ridiculous catches in the NFL. I don't think Xavier is going to be that. And the other thing I'll say is he struggles a little bit in press coverage. You're going to face a lot more press coverage in the NFL. In college, you're seeing a lot of zone, so you're kind of able to operate in space. But his play strength is a little concerning. But yeah, if you get him in the right offense, that guy can be absolutely electric. He can be, one of those top 12 yardage players in the NFL, wide receivers in the NFL. But when I look at comps for him, Deshaun Jackson and Hollywood Brown are kind of my favorite ceiling comps. Now, his floor is a little bit lower. I think he has the potential just to be a complimentary player, but he also has that special weapon upside, if you will. I don't know if he goes in the first round. There's potential. He's certainly talented enough. In any other draft, he's probably a first-round pick. This draft is just completely stacked. All right, we'll go on to number 8. The next 3 wide receivers I'm going to talk about, I would label my guys, sleepers, guys that I'm in love with. I play Dynasty football, and in those scenarios, I'm going to be drafting these guys everywhere I can. At number 8, my guy, if you will, Jalen McMillan, 6'1", 192 pounds. A lot of people know Rome Odunze, but there's not enough respect on Jalen McMillan. 4-star recruit out of Fresno. Jalen is a route running slot guru. He really is. I mean, this kid, man, if you put on some film, you will be absolutely impressed. It reminds me of any NBA fans out there. It reminds me of Kyrie Irving kind of doing the crossover and breaking someone's ankles. I mean, he has got that level of kind of like just eliteness to his route running. He's a quick, decisive planter, great release package off the line of scrimmage, head fakes, the deceptiveness, it's all there. And he's a very versatile player. While he played primarily out of the slot for Washington, I think that speaks more to the talent around him with Polk and with Rome Odunze rather than a limitation to his game. But even if he is a slot receiver in the NFL, that doesn't concern me personally. I mean, that's a very valuable position today. But when I said he's versatile, they used him every way they possibly could at Washington. In the slot, out of the backfield, end arounds, trick plays. I mean, he's throwing the ball. The Wildcat, they got him in the Wildcat, the screen game. He's a red zone threat for them. So I think he's a very, very versatile player. Now, my concern about him is all the injuries he's had this year. I mean, he has played through injuries, and it's been obvious that he has not been himself until the Pac-12 championship game that we just saw. So I'm concerned about how scouts will view him. He has some incredible film, but the film where he is injured and he's clearly not himself is not that impressive. So I'm just concerned where he gets drafted. But I love this player. I would love him in Kansas City, for example. They need someone who can create separation. That's what they need, and this guy can do that for them. Now, I have 3 levels of pro comps for this player because I think there is a wide range of outcomes. Let's start with my floor. I think at minimum, you're getting a Tyler Boyd type of player here with Jalen McMillan. My middle ground, which is the most likely outcome, is you're going to get a Christian Kirk type player, a guy who can operate out of the slot, can stretch the field, can get open, a reliable option for you. Now, his ceiling, to me, my personal opinion, I think he can be as good as the Keenan Allens of the world, the Jordy Nelsons of the world. I think just his route running prowess, it is extremely impressive. Now, this guy is currently projected to go in the 4th round. According to NFL Mock Draft Database, I don't see him lasting that long. I mean, I think he's well worthy of a 2nd round pick, but let's see what the NFL draft thinks as we go along. All right, moving on to my 7th player. Hope you guys are enjoying the video. If you are, do me a favor and smash that like button. A lot of talking, but I hope you're enjoying it. All right, at number 7, let's talk about Ladd McConkey. Yeah, that's right. Ladd McConkey out of Georgia, 6 foot, 185 pounds. And this guy has worked for everything that he was given. He's a 3-star recruit, kind of made a name for himself at Georgia. If you look at his production alone, that's why production, sometimes it's helpful, sometimes you don't see the full picture. If you look at his production alone, you're not going to be impressed. That is a bigger indication of the system he was in Georgia, rather than the limitations of him as a player. You put Ladd McConkey in Oregon this year, you put Ladd McConkey on Washington, these pass-happy offenses, he's going to put up some serious numbers. But let's talk about Ladd. I have a nickname for him. I call him Ladd the Space Creator because all my guy does is get open. It's 7-11. He is consistently open. This guy will be a quarterback's best friend. Hey, the blitz is coming in and you need to throw it to someone straight away. Ladd is open. He's going to be open. A dynamic, explosive playmaker. You know, I don't know if you guys have ever played 2K and my career mode, but there are archetypes that you can choose for your player. And one of those archetypes is the shot creator archetype. I would give that archetype to Ladd as an NFL wide receiver. And the reason I say that is because he consistently makes his quarterback give him a shot because he's always open, deceiving cornerbacks on multiple different routes. He's got an expansive route tree. He's got crisp, clean footwork, and he's a very high IQ player. It's my personal opinion that he is actually the smartest wide receiver in this class, purely from the perspective of how do I attack multiple different defensive looks, multiple different defensive schemes. I know you're playing press. I know you're playing this coverage, and I know exactly how to attack it. He has got that ability, and it's going to translate at the next level, in my opinion. He might not have elite long run speed. He's pretty fast, but he does have great short area quickness. And for me, I've said it time and time again on this channel, but speed, long run speed specifically, is the most overrated attribute for scouting an NFL wide receiver. It is absolutely important. It can raise your ceiling, but it is not the end all if you're going to be a successful wide receiver in the NFL. But the opposite can be said for short area quickness. If you do not have short area quickness, it is going to be tough for you to succeed in the NFL. Not impossible, but it's going to be tough. And he has that short area quickness. He's got strong, reliable hands, 84% catch rate, which is 4th in the nation. He's a versatile player. He's got yak upside. I mean, he gets up the field very, very quickly. But of course, like we said, doesn't have the home run hitting speed, doesn't have ridiculous production, but you can decide if that's important to you or not. When I look at a pro comparison, I see a lot of Deontay Johnson and Ladd McConkey's game. Just this really impressive route runner that's always giving his quarterback an option. I see Deontay Johnson. I see a little Chris Godwin in his yak game. And we're going to talk about a player here soon in Emeka Egbuka. But to me, if a team passes on Emeka Egbuka in the first round, then Ladd McConkey is a great option in the second. I would say he's a discount Emeka Egbuka in this class. So, love Ladd. Let me know what you think about him below. All right, at number 6, and you can make an argument for this player to be as high as number 4. This is a my guy again. I think he has the potential, and this might sound crazy, but he has the upside, the true upside, to be, at the end of the day, years from now, the second best wide receiver in this class. That's how good he could be. Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU, 6'4", 205 pounds, 4-star recruit. Between Brian Thomas and Ladd McConkey, who we just talked about, both of those guys surprised me the most in a good way this class. I really think, like I said, Brian, his upside is through the roof. Superstar ceiling for this player. And let's talk about the things that we like. Brian Thomas, his fluidity is next level. He is ridiculously fluid for his size. At 6'4", 205 pounds, the guy moves like he's 5'10", 170. It's like he's floating on air. It's like motor oil through an engine. It's so fluid. It's kind of ridiculous. He's got first-class concentration, does a really good job tracking balls down. He's got strong hands. He has an 82.1 catch percentage, which is third in the nation. Really good hands. 60% contested catch rate. Really good late hands as well. You know, that's a skill that typically you're taught in the NFL, but when you're tracking the ball and it's coming from behind you, how late do you let those hands kind of show? That is a skill, and he's already got that to his game. He's a huge yak threat because of how fluid he is in the open field. A very capable run blocker. Now, the things that are a little bit concerning, and I'll just say before I say this, he has all the athleticism, similar to Xavier Legette. He has all the athleticism, all the twitch, all the fluidity to improve these areas. But at the moment, today, his release package could really, really improve. He needs to work on his route running in general. He needs to expand his route tree. Yes, you're an elite athlete at college, but you need to expand your route tree to beat NFL defenses. So if he can improve those areas of his game, I would not be surprised at some point if he becomes one of those upper echelon receivers in the NFL. I mean, his ceiling is as high as A.J. Brown. It really is. I'm not saying that's the outcome. That's the ceiling. His ceiling is as high as an Anquan Bolden. I see some similarity between those two players. Now, his floor, at minimum, I think you're getting a George Pickens type of athlete, type of player. And the very, very bottom would be a Kenny Britt type of player. So look, he's got a very wide range of outcomes. Quarterback play could make the difference, but he has true alpha star upside. It would not surprise me if we are 5 years down the line and he's the second best receiver in this class. All right, on to number 5, which for me at the moment would be the kid out of Oregon, Troy Franklin. He is extremely fun to watch. Very interesting size. 6'3", 187 pounds. Has to be said that his size is super unique. There are not a lot of wide receivers in the NFL with this kind of size profile. He's technically listed at 187. I wouldn't be surprised if he's more 175, like his actual play weight. So I'm sitting there seeing 6'3", maybe 175. He's this super lanky guy. It's a really interesting size profile for a guy like Troy Franklin. But man, he is so explosive, an explosive athlete. And I've been calling him Frozone when I watch his film, specifically because of his release package. We talked about this with some players previously, but if you can, at the line of scrimmage, ball is snapped, and within a second, if you can gain separation with your footwork, with your release package, where you're going, I mean, that gives you separation instantly off the line of scrimmage, and he is consistently freezing defensive backs with his release package, aka that's why we call him Frozone. But quick, decisive cutter. He's a huge, huge yak threat. You wouldn't expect a guy who is super lanky to have, this dynamic explosiveness in the open field, but he does. He's got great play speed, great quickness. I wouldn't be shocked if he runs a 4.35 40-yard dash or something like that. He has an incredible combo of burst, short area quickness, and long run speed. And remember earlier we said it is not absolutely necessary for you to have long run speed to be successful in the NFL. But if you have it on top of everything else, that is an incredible advantage to your play. You kind of become a complete player. He broke out at the age of 19, so he was a young breakout, accounted for 25% of his team's receiving offense in 2022. Now, the concerns with Troy, the first thing that stands out is the drops. Similar to Xavier Worthy, he makes some of the highlight plays and then kind of these concentration simple drops. He has a 10.5% drop rate, which is 175th. It is a little bit concerning to me. And I think he can be even better as a route runner. Now, I just mentioned he's a very good, has a very good release package, but I just think that there is more nuance to his game that he could consistently add. The way I view it is, man, what could he be? What kind of player could he be if he puts it all together? But the other thing is that he's just not a very good run blocker. I think that speaks to his size, his lack of strength, if you will. But again, that's something that you can improve. He can put on some pounds if he wants, as long as it doesn't impact his game. Now, if you're going to look at a pro comp, there's really not a good pro comp out there. I'm going to be honest with you. There's not a lot of Troy Franklins growing out on trees nowadays and in the NFL playing wide receiver. From a size perspective, the only comp that makes sense is the likes of a Robbie Anderson, purely from a size perspective. But if I look at his game in totality, if you will, some people might hate me for this, but I do see a little Marvin Harrison, as in Colts legend Marvin Harrison, to his game. That is his ceiling comp, is the Marvin Harrison, Devonta Smiths of the world. Now, his floor is as low as, let's say, what Josh Reynolds is giving the Detroit Lions, right? That is probably at minimum what you're going to get. Maybe what Josh Reynolds and Jameson Williams are doing for the Detroit Lions. So this is a player who has wide receiver 1 upside with a wide receiver 2 floor, a big play threat at minimum. He could go in the first round of the NFL draft, but again, it's so stacked. I really don't know where he'll end up when all is said and done, but I'm a big fan of Troy's game. All right, on to number 4. Earlier, we talked about how Jalen McMillan is just not getting the respect that he's deserving because Rome Odunze is shining so bright. The same can be said for this player who has dealt with injuries this year. That is Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State, 6'1", 206 pounds. He's a former 5-star recruit, one of the most sought after recruits out of high school in his class. But again, similar to Jalen McMillan, Emeka has been injured for most of the year and has not been himself. That does not mean that his traits will not, translate at the NFL in a very big way. But Emeka Egbuka is a zone menace. He specializes finding the open window in a zone coverage. That type of IQ, similar to Ladd McConkey, could make him a quarterback's best friend. That really shows up, by the way, if you go and watch the Notre Dame game this year. Now, some players, some receivers, you'll watch route runners, but the best route runners at the next level, certain things separate them from the rest of the pack. And one of those things is if they have that special tempo to their routes. And Emeka has that special, unique tempo, that silky smooth ability to move their body, to decelerate quickly and accelerate back just as quickly. It's almost like an art watching that kind of tempo within a route, and he absolutely has that, and it gives him an ability to consistently create separation, that decisive planning at the break point of his routes. All right, here's the break point of the route. I'm either going left, I'm going right, or I'm curling back. And he has that decisive planning that gets him open. The amount of times, guys, that I would watch Emeka Egbuka get wide freaking open. I mean, the guy is naked, wide open. And Kyle McCord, just the quarterback for Ohio State, not even looking his way. I don't know how Mika didn't absolutely lose it this year because he was consistently open. He could have had some huge games. Kyle was just not looking his way. It was so frustrating. It is not surprising to me that Kyle McCord is now transferring out of Ohio State and they're looking for someone else. But Emeka Egbuka is a very versatile player. Ohio State used him in so many different ways, similar to the Lad McConkeys of the world, similar to the Xavier Worthies of the world, with his versatility specifically. He's played 30% out wide and 70% in the slot. I believe he has the route running abilities to play outside in the NFL. He has the size to play outside in the NFL. It'll just depend on how a NFL team wants to use him, but he may not have elite long run speed. And some people might disagree with me based off what I've seen on film. I don't see this as an elite long run speed player, but as we mentioned, that's not the most important thing to me. What is your functional speed? You know, speed is great, but how do you use that speed? How does it get you open? How does it make you a better wide receiver? Emeka has incredible, elite, functional speed at the wide receiver position. I'm curious to see how he tests. I'm not sure what that will look like. But also the last thing I'll say is his yak ability. He's a very, very good yak wide receiver. And if you're betting on an Ohio State wide receiver, you're making a good bet. The Brian Hartline effect is a real thing. He has coached up so many successful wide receivers at the next level. Now, obviously, I'm concerned about where he falls in the NFL draft. It's such a talented class. He's not been healthy. How will that impact him? But my pro comps, when I look at a player like this, I would absolutely take him in the first round personally. I think you're getting an Amon-Ra St. Brown, a Robert Woods type of player when you get Emeka Egbuka, a versatile wide receiver 1A, 1B type of player. All right, moving on to number 3. This is a player that I fell in love with last year. I thought he was going to declare in the 2023 class. He decided to come back to school, and I think it really worked out for him because now he's a consensus top 10 pick. And I agree. Rome Odunze out of Washington, 6'3", 215 pounds, another size, speed, freak athlete, 21 years old out of Las Vegas, Nevada. He has incredible ball skills. Quite simply put, Rome Odunze is a one-on-one jump ball winner. He has all the tools to be a premier end zone and deep ball threat. Great concentration, ball tracking skills, those late hands that we talked about, impressive play strength at all points of his game. He's got incredible physicality overall, a nightmare for a defensive back to face up against. He's an incredible route runner as well. This is where, in my opinion, Rome Odunze and Keon Coleman really separate from each other. Rome Odunze is an incredible route runner, as well as being a good contested catch guy, as well as being pretty much good at every other area of a wide receiver's game, but has a great combo of strength and quickness in his release package, which makes him a nightmare in zone and press coverage. Great speed for his size. Now, Rome, when I look at a pro comp, it's just my personal opinion, but if you combine Courtland Sutton at his prime, right? Courtland Sutton's contested catch ability, his ball winning ability, if you combine that with the likes of Chris Olave's route running, you're getting Rome Odunze, and that is a potentially elite player at the next level. I absolutely think he's an alpha wide receiver 1 the day he steps into the NFL, and I love this player. All right, at number 2, I think that there are 2 tippy-top elite wide receiver prospects in this class. It's not just the player everyone talks about. I also believe that Malik Neighbors out of LSU is an elite wide receiver prospect. He is 6 foot, 200 pounds, 20 years old. He's a young guy coming out, and he's actually from Louisiana. But Malik Neighbors has the number 1 PFF receiving grade at 92.7 this year. Versatile player. You can put this guy anywhere on the field. You are scripting touches every week to get the ball in Malik Neighbors' hands at the next level. He played 47% out wide, 52% in the slot. He is a route running technician, a very technically sound route runner as well. He's got that special tempo and pulse that we talked about with Emeka Egbuka on his routes. Great manipulation on film, multiple examples of these double moves on a defender that just leaves him wide open for his quarterback, so much untapped potential, as a route runner as well. His best is still on the way as he perfects his game. Great ball skills, impressive body control at the catch point, unique concentration. He kind of has an ability, if you will, to kind of zone out everything else that's happening and just completely track that ball in. The concentration is next level. You know, we talked about how Adonai Mitchell earlier, how he has those silky, soft hands. Those also show up for Malik Neighbors. Great speed, above average with his suddenness through all areas of his game, and he's a huge yak threat, a super explosive player after the catch. He can attack angles in the second level with ease, always looking to make a huge play out of nothing. And when I look at pro comps for this player, there are a couple names that really stand out. I think we could be seeing the next Reggie Wayne, as in Colts legend wide receiver Reggie Wayne. I see a ton of similarities in the way that they attack a defense. I see a little Stephon Diggs. I see a little DJ Moore when you look at yards after the catch. I really, really love this player. I think he's worthy of being a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. Let me know what you guys think as well. And at number 1, it's no surprise, the best wide receiver prospect since Jamar Chase. I'm not going to argue between who's the better prospect, but Marvin Harrison Jr. out of Ohio State, 6'4", 205 pounds, out of Philadelphia, Philly. Great ball skills. Great ball skills for Marvin Harrison Jr. Absolutely is a ball winner. Look, I could actually go on here for about 20 more minutes and tell you all the things I really, really love about Marvin Harrison Jr., but I think you guys all know the name by now. So instead of saying the things that I love about him, I will just tell you some comparisons instead. Now, there is no perfect comparison for a player like Marvin Harrison Jr., a guy who can win at every aspect of being a wide receiver. There is no perfect comparison, but I can see shades of different Hall of Fame wide receivers all throughout his game, all throughout his film. When you look at his route running, you see the Amari Cooper type of elite route running abilities. When I look at his hands and his ball skills, I see Larry Fitzgerald a little bit there. When I look at it, the size, speed aspect of his play, you see little Randy Moss. Now, he might not be as big or as, quick as a Randy Moss, but it's pretty damn close. And when you look at his strength, I see an AJ Green, that ability to just come down with the ball no matter what, no excuses. We're going to grab that ball. He's got a little AJ Green in his game. To me, this is unquestionably an alpha wide receiver 1. He'll be a top 5 wide receiver the day he enters the NFL. He will be a top 5 dynasty wide receiver the day he enters the NFL. He's worthy of being a top 3 pick. And man, I would really, really love for Kyler Murray's sake if he actually ended up in Washington. I think that would be an incredible pairing. But that is my top 10, technically top 12. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Again, do us a huge favor and go ahead and hit that like button. We are hoping to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. With your help, I think we can get there. And by the way, if you want, over here on DynastyLand, if you want our rookie package and our rookie rankings, it's this PDF that we come out with where we pretty much break down every player's attributes, talk about their limitations, the attributes that we like, all in a PDF for you to view. Very convenient for anyone who plays Dynasty football. That will be released most likely at Christmas, and you're only going to be able to access it for quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends in this class, all positions. You're only going to be able to access it if you're supporting us over on the Flock Fantasy website. Go ahead and use our promo code LAND when you sign up. You'll get 30% off your membership. You'll get access to that scouting package when it releases in Christmas. Not only will you get access to that, you'll get a Dynasty team review, which is something that we do. We basically break down your Dynasty team on a live stream. You get to be a part of our Dynasty trade show, which happens every week. You get the fantasy hotline, which is a direct DM to us for advice. You get articles from all the best minds on that website. You get rankings for rookies, but also for Dynasty 1 quarterback, Dynasty Superflex. It's an incredible package. I promise you won't regret it. DM us if you sign up and we'll get you all hooked up. But I appreciate you watching this video. And I'll see you guys very, very soon. All love. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, L-A-N-D, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy. Even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.